Welcome in, everyone. RFU Refugees Podcast. Ted here, John here, joining you again on a Labor Day holiday weekend. I hope your day was good. I hope your day off from work. If you had not everybody in our lovely society gets off work. But if you had off work, I hope you had a good time. If you had to work, I hope they gave you some additional pay, because that's how it works in this system. John, how you doing, my friend? How are things?
Things are good.
How are things cruising?
Things are good. I had a day off. I was happy for that. My 3-day weekend. Didn't watch any of I want to talk about it. I just saw it after the fact. The Leagues Cup final was interesting.
I watched it. Yeah, it was.
Did you?
Wild.
All right, good. You can speak about it. So the one thing I thought that was interesting, someone pointed out that for winning the third place game, the LA Galaxy, who are ostensibly worse than we are at MLS this year, are going to be in the Champions League next year. So that's cool. That's normal. Watch them do great in it, by the way, because they shouldn't be as bad as they are. It's just like a weird confluence of things. But
it's basically they won the championship, got what they wanted, and then they just hit the reset button.
Yeah. So Ted was talking about some home improvement stuff. My weekend was spent painting the surround in front of my house the wrong color, and then realizing it when I handed the paint to my neighbor. I'd be like, "Here you go, finish it off." And then I realized that was the wrong color paint, so I had to repaint everything today by myself. It was sort of like a primer, except for that it was not a primer and it was in fact indoor paint. So we'll see if the entire front of my house falls off. It's entirely possible. Could have to do it again. We'll see. How was your weekend aside from?
It was good. Spent some time with my dad for his birthday, in Williamsburg of all places, with kind of a smaller little family type gathering. So that was fun.
Nice.
And then heard Liverpool win on the way back. Obviously, DC United won, and then watched a wild Leagues Cup final on Sunday. Just absolutely crazy, with just in the match and just the way it kind of all unfolded. We were watching it. We were watching it on TV, and I was actually watching with a friend over at a Buffalo Wild Wings, which only place you can show up, and I know I can watch DC United or MLS or anything related to that. And so the sound was off, and suddenly we were just looking, and suddenly people are fighting, people are throwing each other on the ground, and just wildness. And then we kind of went back and watched it again on my phone, kind of sitting around, and just obviously the spitting incident with Suarez that was caught on film, certainly not a great advertisement for the league in general,
but also very on brand and maybe always coming, sort of a situation where he'd do something kind of embarrassing to the league on a big scale. So that's one of those things.
Yeah, man, it was just it was just wild. It was just kind of wild to watch sort of the end of a very routine game, seeing Dwayne DeRosario's son score a goal, and just watching the gray hairs just sprout from my.
Did he do the celly?
I don't think he did the celly. Yeah, I don't think he did his dad's celly this time, but just congratulations to Seattle Sounders winning the Leagues Cup. Obviously, you talked about LA will be in the Champions League. Inter Miami will also be in the Champions League. I believe this is the second, or is this the third year in the row it's been a sort of MLS versus MLS Leagues Cup?
I think the nature of the tournament makes it sort of almost guaranteed, which is kind of what they wanted to do. They set up a tournament in which all of the games are going to be in the United States, deal with it, and we're going to win. It's like Champions League except for unfair.
Well, so basically it's been, so I guess they restarted it in 2023. We can call that the full version of the tournament. Inter Miami versus Nashville SC. And then 2024 was Columbus Crew versus Los Angeles, and 2025 was Sounders versus Inter Miami FC. I think, yes, maybe they did want it to kind of be that type of tournament, but I think also the idea was that this would give Liga MX an extra chances to get teams into the Champions League. That's why they're kind of all for it. So it's been a massive failure as far as them. And I don't know what it means for I think there's been a lot of talk about sort of the future, of course.
Nothing. I think it means nothing to them. If it is what you're saying, and that they're looking at this as an opportunity to get a side door or back door into the Champions League where they can actually win and usually do, then it probably doesn't mean anything to them, because they're not. The only downside is they are taking time out. They're not in a break right now. They're just taking.
No, this is their season. Yeah.
Oh, they're not getting a ticket gate for any of these, are they? Then maybe there's got to be a split. Maybe there's a split, because if I am not signing up for a tournament in which we never have any home games, like that would be crazy. MLS would never sign up for such a thing, ever.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know what the future of this tournament holds. Obviously, DC United did not, quote unquote, qualify for this year's tournament. They did not participate in this year's tournament.
And they won't next year either, I don't think, right? Because it's like top 12, right?
Well, we'll see what they do next year. I think it'll be interesting to see, because I think they give you like a choice. It's like you basically, they had like 3 tournaments. They basically like seeded it all, and it was like 3 tournaments you could participate in. You couldn't participate in all 3. It was like Champions League, Open Cup, or Leagues Cup. So some teams were in Open Cup and Leagues Cup. Some teams were in Champions League and Leagues Cup, but not Open Cup. It was kind of all a little bit of a weird mess, so to speak. But yeah, DC. So that's why like I really wasn't as engaged with it, because DC United was not in it. So
yeah, reasonably so. But, there's something that we should talk about, and I think it's rare that we actually have to do that. As Todd says, is it just me, or is it nicer watching DC United with zero expectations? We're bearing the lead, and we're bearing it because it doesn't matter. But we should be happy about this. The fact that DC United won a game in a place they have never won a game before, and a coach who is undefeated with 5 points out of 9.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I have to look up. If I had more time in my life, I would look up like what DC United's record is.
I think they've never won a game at Yankee Stadium.
They have never. I tweeted that like very confidently. I was like, I can't recall them ever winning a game at Yankee Stadium, even drawing a game at Yankee Stadium. Like, there have been some horror shows. I would have to guess, like, it would not surprise me if like the goal differential of games with DC United and NYCFC at Yankee Stadium would be like -20 plus, like above that threshold. It would not surprise me. But to give Renee Weiler credit, he comes out. The team plays, I wouldn't say like the prettiest game of soccer. Some nice finishes, of course, from Gabo Pirani, who continues to make it interesting, I guess, as to like whether he'll be back next year, whether the team sells him, whether someone else gets an interest for him. That'll certainly be something to watch. But you got to give... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, unfortunately, it does appear that DC United has beaten New York City at Yankee Stadium one other time before, only once.
Okay.
So I would say generally still a pretty good shout.
Well, are you sure that was at Yankee Stadium? Are you just looking at road results?
It was 2-1 Yankee Stadium. On 2022 August 31. I think this might have been a weird game that I watched from a hotel. Wayne Rooney.
Are you
was
sure
managing.
that game? That was August 2022. Are you sure that game was not at Red Bull Arena?
It says Yankee Stadium.
Where are you reading that?
I'm reading it in FBref's game logs. Steve Birnbaum with the winning goal in the 57th minute.
We're gonna. I will look this up because I'm.
David Ochoa starting in net, just to give you the full vibes of what this game was. It was that time. It was that little brief moment in time.
Wow, they did win 2-1 at Yankee Stadium. You were right.
Only time ever.
Wow, only time ever.
Anyway, just want to make for the record, people might want to pick us apart. I know a certain Twitter account that would probably.
I should have probably looked it up.
It felt honestly true though. I felt it in my bones like it was true. It was one of those feeling facts.
This was also a really bad team, I remember, for DC United. Ola Kamara,
coming back,
Miguel Berry
cancer.
out there, Rodriguez, Canals, Paulson, Durkin, Odiatsum was out there, Pines, Birnbaum, Nahar, maybe being the one exception, and David Ochoa, as you said. Christian Benteke subbing into that game. So this was during Christian Benteke's, like, when he was signed with the team. Early days of Christian Benteke.
Where Ola Kamara was mad.
But mostly like this has been just awful like times at Yankee Stadium for DC United, and like it's just been. So you got to give Renee Weiler credit. I thought he came in and set the team up well. They played a very low block, gave New York City FC the ball, and really made it difficult for them to find kind of very clear-cut chances. Yankee Stadium is obviously a very, very small pitch. There's not a lot of space. There's not a lot of room. And so you could tell their kind of goal was they were just going to clog the middle as much as they can with Brendan Cervania and Matty Peltola. They were going to play very much their 4-man back line was just going to be like, you can have the width, you can have the wings, but we're not going to give you anything sort of in the center. And to their credit, sans one goal, it worked. They really frustrated New York City all night. There really wasn't anything that you saw them really gain as far as in the attack, and really clear cut opportunities. Are really a couple I can think of other than the goal, obviously. So like credit where credit's due. I think what we've seen so far from Rene is that he stepped in, and I think he very quickly knows the players that he has. He knows kind of where to place them, and he seems to like know how to set up a game plan. And combined with, obviously, I think this is now like definitely a new coach bump. I think this has more to do with certain players that know their performance hasn't been good this season and know that they want to make an opportunity to make a name for themselves for next season when they're starting to look at sort of kind of rebuilding the squad again. So I think it's a bit of a combination of all that.
Were you surprised to not see Caden Clark come in, or do you think he was just on the bench for numbers purposes because he was recovering from a concussion?
A little surprised. I mean, yeah, a little surprised considering that, this is a player. I think maybe he might have come in had it still been 1-1. I think the goal, was in the 70th, 75th. I have to go look. It was sort of late in the second. What's that?
77th.
77th?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah. So 77th minute. So yeah, I mean, but basically, maybe right before, maybe you put in a Caden Clark. We don't know what his status is with his concussion symptoms and kind of where he's at. Maybe it was more of a just leave him out. And I think especially after DC got the goal, there was no need for an attacking sub. It'll be interesting to see, of course, next Saturday, whether you'll see him maybe make an appearance in that game. So.
Is next Saturday the Club America game, or is it an actual game?
Yes, next Saturday is the Club America game.
You would assume. You'd have to imagine he's like, if I'm Jason and I'm calling down, be like, guys, listen, we're already eliminated. Please play, coach, play the good players. Make this at least a watchable game. Don't have Rita Zohir playing 75 minutes, please. This is not that game. This is something else.
Yeah, but you would think. I guess some other. Do you have any specific, call outs from the game? I've got a couple. Obviously, Pirani with the goals.
I was sad Jackson Hopkins did not continue his goal scoring streak, although he was sort of a different scenario. He, before being the sole number 9, is a bit of a different situation than sharing the front line with Benteke, which he did at certain points, depending on sort of how the formation worked itself out.
His role in the team is interesting. He is basically being asked to be everywhere in this game. He is sort of leading that front line as far as the press goes. He is contributing in some semblance of the attack. And then he's also coming back and, pressuring and trying to win possession. And it's an interesting role that he's being asked to play. I think he was definitely more in the midfield role. You have Pirani, you have Benteke, you have Peglo out there. They're going to be more of your more attacking options. He's kind of sitting kind of in between those lines. And I think it's an interesting role because I think what it ultimately allows, it gives Rene some flexibility to where if the team's on the attack, he can utilize Peglo, Pirani, Benteke, and Hopkins to kind of like overload defenses or, make it an even split as far as the 4-man defensive line. Also push players back and provide a little bit of cover. And then, when you're pressuring, when you're in sort of that low block or low press, he can kind of just roam around into the spots where DC might be shorthanded and prevent being overloaded, or as we saw in this game, try to win back possession or win back balls. I also thought Matty Peltola had another just really solidly strong game, just really interrupting everything. He and Cervania have developed this very, very good partnership. I think kind of coming out. So
not something that would have been anticipated probably at the start of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's going to be, he's a player to watch. He's a player who's, expressed that he's not been happy. I think he still has 1 year left on his contract, plus maybe some option years. Do we probably, is there enough interest for him to move abroad, move somewhere else? Possibly, but maybe is Rennie able to convince him, hey, give this another shot. Things look good.
I don't have the exact quote from the press conference, but the coach was basically like, we got to get through these games, and then I need to go to work with this roster. Made it sound like he's going to make a lot of moves. So that, or I guess, ask for a lot of. It's very interesting dynamic to have an inexperienced GM who oversaw 2 extremely bad seasons, one even worse, so bad that the coach had to be fired, And then the guy coming in, taking that spot has much more experience at the technical level and the player evaluation and acquisition level than does the GM. So it'll be very interesting to see. He was told, again, we've talked about it last week. There's still not been any sort of like real substantial interview with anyone at all for the coach. But Rene was told, like, I was told that I would be backed and I'm going to continue having those conversations. I will say that exact expression was used by Aaron Almasada like 4 months before he was gone for different reasons. But I think even if not that, I think he would have been gone for other reasons shortly after, because he was already sort of quickly banging on the, hey, I thought we were going to sign some players. What happened to that? So no reason to be pessimistic on the early onset, but it sounds like his expectation in taking this job is that there's going to be a lot of changes where he's going to be able to build the team the way he wants. And I think, to your point about Matty, it makes sense to see him sort of really put his best foot forward and see what he wants. Because I think, he's a young player. He still gets all the international call-ups, but that won't persist if he plays in a nobody, like the worst team in a league across the ocean and not getting a lot of minutes. So if he wants to continue that, he needs to play in front of a coach that has some more sort of cachet and natural respect, and he has to perform. So to be TBD on if he wants to stay next year or what DC United sees for his role, but it's very important. There's a couple players in that spot. There's Aaron Herrera is an interesting point. Signed as a wingback, one of the best in the league as a right back for 3 or 4 years. I think he's got one more option year left. He's being played in a depending, but has been played in a more forward position.
This role, he was definitely more in the more traditional right back role.
Back to where he normally was. And I wonder if that was just waiting for Peglo to return to be able to sort of swing and pivot the wing players back where he wanted them. I don't know. What did you think about Peglo's performance? I thought kind of inert for his first time back in a while.
Some nice ideas. I don't think the execution was there today for him. I think was the struggle. He could see where he was maybe making some passes, making some ideas. He had one sort of opportunity where he fired a shot sort of above the bar. I think that's been kind of, he kind of has these little like hot and cold type performances we've seen from him on occasion. I also want to call it, I don't think Herrera or David Schnegg necessarily had a great game either, although they were sort of kind of put out because DC was like, we're going to, congest the middle. We're going to play a low block. It sort of leaves the only other outlet to be sort of that wide area and sort of forces Herrera and Schnegg into kind of one-on-one opportunities, which they, you win, even if you win about 70, 80% of those, you're going to look silly on the 20% when they get by you. So maybe that was more of a coach, sort of how this team wanted to play than anything else.
So we can't not talk about the fact that Pirani scored 2 goals. We can't avoid it. It's still, to me, is not the player that I want on the field on a good team. The difference being is that he's seemingly creating more of his own chances than being a chance creator. He had the most progressive carries on the team. He had the most amount of take-ons of any player. That's not typical for him. Nearly 40 touches. So in that top half of the players, sometimes he goes a bit more quiet. And he has scored a couple goals. I mean, he typically scores outside of the 18. He's sort of in the office there. Like outside the 18 in front of goal is sort of where he makes most of his goals, at least this year. Have your feelings changed on him at all? Where's your evaluation on him after he keeps scoring?
To be honest, I don't really know. This is going to be
very confusing.
Yeah, because you look at him and, again, we've talked about his FBref numbers. He's certainly, I think, a pretty good. I think I've arrived at the fact that he is a particular improvement on, as much as it pains me to say it, Ted Pietro. Like, I think we've seen
this year. I think that's right.
Yeah, this year and even maybe a little bit of last year. We've seen him kind of, really rise to the occasion, score goals. He sits, his assist tallies still are not great, but he's gotten better at that. I don't know. I feel like I want to see I obviously want to see this team improve. This team, literally every every sector of the field, maybe with the exception of obviously Christian Benteke as sort of your striker, can look to see improvement and can look to see at the very least competition where maybe he becomes a great player off the bench who can come in and chip in those numbers. I don't know. I think it's going to be, I think if there is an offer of over $1 million for him out there that comes to fruition over the winter, I think you take it. I think you really see no reason why not. Obviously, in Europe, there was no offer, I guess, from the Swedish side. That the window in Europe has now closed pretty much, so no real other offers expected to come. We'll see maybe if there's something else that comes with South America or anywhere else. So
does Prani have an option? So Prani's contract expires in December. Does he have an option year? And just to clear up too, Matty Peltola still has 3 more years on his contract, so he is very much at DC United's.
Really? 3 more years? Yeah. Including options or where?
3 years on the contract, straight contracted years. Pirani is showing as a expiration at the end of this year. So is Herrera, Leal, Benteke. So there's still an opportunity for a manager who wants to make a bunch of moves. There's not too many. We talked before and have talked now as the season's been over effectively for months, that there is about a third of the team under contract, and some of them probably for too much money, but still that's the case. So there's room to move around.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the roster, obviously Christian Benteke's ends this year. Gabriel Pirani ends this year. Their 2 option years, 2026, 2027. Kim Jung-hong runs till 2027. He will most certainly be here. Borisy now runs through 2027.
I'm hoping that me shaming him also makes him good. So I'll give him the Pirani treatment.
Yeah, Kai Rouse, David Schnegg, players that run through next year. Connor Antley ends this year. I'm trying to look at the Matty, try to see where you saw. I have Matty Peltzela's contract ends in 2020 through 2027. So yes, he has 2 more years left on his contract. Wow, that was a long deal he signed with DC United. So yeah, there is clearly not an unlimited amount of build that this team can do. Obviously, the team has most certainly done now the roster profile of the 2-4-22 finally, so they do get an extra $1 million in GAM to go out and hopefully try to make this team better. I think the ultimate question is going to be I think this team will have obviously some players that they can let go. Like Randy Leao is not going to be here. Lucas Mignotin, I'm going to say probably not here. Luis Barraza, question mark as to whether he'll be here. Connor Antley, possibly, depending on how good he looks. But you look at sort of, even this team sort of like big name players. Their TAM level players are Kai Rawls, David Schnegg, Matty Peltola, Joao Peglo, Aaron Herrera, Borisy now. I think you would expect all of those players to be back. Maybe you would hope the team can find an offloading point for Borisy now, but I don't know at this point. And then you get your 22 initiative. So I guess this really like a lot of these TAM players. I think like we've talked about Kai Rawls and sort of where he sits. A lot of that's transfer fee. Borisy now is certainly transfer fee. Aaron Herrera is salary based TAM, I believe. Joao Peglo, I believe, is also maybe a bit of transfer fee and salary based. Matty Peltola, purely salary as far as that TAM level goes. So I don't know. There's some potential room for them to kind of build out and maybe some maybe be able to have some roster room to go out and sign sort of some bigger level players.
There's just not going to be you'd like a team to have some continuity of like the players that are really good are the ones that you're going to maintain, but it seems like some of the players that have got extended contracts are not the ones you'd want to retain, like Enau, Baji. Nate Bartlett's had a big regression this year, I would say. Mm-hmm. Kim is the question. So I've seen it a lot of different places. People have been asking like, why not just start him? Why not give him more opportunities? And I think you'll see him play Saturday. I think you would hope to see that, right?
Who would that? Sorry, who are you speaking about? Kim Jung-hong. Okay. I think that would say I would expect him to play Saturday.
He does well. Give him another shot.
Yeah. If he does, yeah, if he does well, maybe be playing for the. I think you'll see him make a couple other appearances. That is going to be the goalkeeping situation is going to be interesting to watch because, like, Luis Barraza has certainly done nothing wrong. He's done nothing that would make you think. And now the question is, he is coming up on a contract year. He's going to be a free agent, I believe, or he'll at least still have the option to maybe explore that a little bit. So does he want to say? Maybe move on to another team. He's like, you know what, this was fun. I think I've showed what I can do, and I want to move on and try to find something else. I think the goalkeeping situation is going to be fascinating to watch. I think if you are a coach that maybe wants to say, I don't think Kim is going to be good enough within the next couple of years. I know there are plenty of teams in South Korea that would chomp at the bit to probably get him back. He might want to go back. Maybe you just say, hey, let's just send him right back and clear up that U22 slot, clear up that international slot too.
I did learn, and I don't know if this is why he was playing so much, that up until this year, the Korean League had a rule that all goalkeepers had to be Korean, and they just lifted that. And now foreign-born players can be goalkeepers in Korea.
Interesting.
I don't know if that has anything to do with anything. I don't know if that was... I don't know. I mean, he played obviously well enough to get call-ups to the international level, so that's not all about that. I just thought that was an interesting thing that I saw. There's still how many more games left? There's 5 more games left? 5 more games. Orlando at home, Inter away, Philly at home, Charlotte home, Atlanta away to end the season. I think you give them 2 of those.
Yeah. Just a couple of them, just see.
No, give him Inter Miami. Feed him to the absolute wolves.
Yeah.
Or Philly, both of those.
There's going to be a lot of sort of interesting, just looking at the players that are like their contracts up, like Rita Zohir, probably not going to be back. Garrison Tubbs, I don't know. What do you?
Probably goodbye. I think probably goodbye. I think probably goodbye. It was awesome. A cheap gamble, and maybe I think he finds his level at the championship.
Yeah, Jose Kojima.
That was a more expensive gamble. I think it didn't end up mattering in the grand scheme of things since we wasted $1 million in GAM. So what's $400,000 in GAM? I don't know. He seems fine. He seems a player. I do not want to have him start. I think he's a fine bench player. I'd extend him at reasonable cost.
Yeah, I mean, there is an option on his contract. He's on the supplemental roster, so he doesn't technically, I think, take up as much of the as much cap space. But and then obviously, I think you'll see Jackson Hopkins. I think you'll see his options extended. I think that's pretty much
Captain Jackson Hopkins.
You'll see Christian Fletcher's extended as well, most likely.
You think?
I think so. I mean,
I don't think he wants to be here.
Well, I mean, where else?
But he is injured, so I guess maybe he wants a paycheck.
Yeah, season-ending injury, and what options do you have as far as this could be like a prove it year. It would be interesting. Go ahead.
I was going to say the facts around that injury still never came out. It still very much seems like it was unauthorized horsing around or balling at the training facility instead of they got him hurt. But they never really came out about that because they're trying to do him solid.
Other players, let's see. Some of these players next year: Jared Stroud, Brendan Cervania, Dominic Baji. Dominic Baji's here through next year. Jeez, that's not something you want to hear. I think some of these players you might see some buyouts. I think if you're Renee, you're looking at some of these contracts. You're like, I mean, can you exercise a buyout on a Borisy now? Would be a big one to get off your
Baji would be cheaper and maybe also probably smart if you have a greater hope for your backup striker.
Yeah, big question. Do you think Christian Benteke is back? You think so?
I do.
Yeah,
I think so.
I think so as well, and I might be in the minority, or we might both be in the minority.
I think that is the exact move you do when you're not ready to actually be ambitious. Like you're like, well, we know what we got. It won't be expensive. There's no transfer fee. We'll roll back one more year, and then next time, the year after that, we'll get another big DP to really take us to that next step forward. Because truly, I think the where we're at right now. Granted, we've fought this entire season with a hand behind our back. Fair. I think if you added another DP, I don't think we'd be that much better. I think that the roster has proven deficient in so many more ways. So I think it would not make from a, timing perspective until you have a nucleus of players that you would not immediately throw away every single year, which is kind of where we find ourselves. You don't need to go spend $10 million on a transfer of a player who's already, if you're buying a player like that, He's already in the late stage of his prime. Don't waste a prime year of a good player. And this is not like excuses for the team to not spend money. That is not what I'm saying. But I'm saying like spend it when it makes sense to spend it, like time it. So next year, similar to this year, which was all about like bringing up the floor of the roster is all the thing we talked about. They didn't bring it up high enough. Aim higher. Bring up the floor higher. Raise the roof. And then 27, I guess, spend $10 million on some amazing player.
Well, yeah, this year was about floor raising. I think it's been a mixed bag of results, and the problem with this team is the ceiling, regardless of whether the ceiling is ninth at best with this team, and it needs to be higher than that if this team wants to have any. And I think that's what we saw this year. It was a gamble that you can find smart players and you can be quote unquote smarter than everybody else. And it didn't work. This team, again, ran out with one designated player. So, it's a team that is still, in my opinion, very much stripped down for parts in a lot of ways. There are some pieces that I think could suit this team well with a little bit of enhancement. I think what you want to see next year, you want to see over the winter, you want to see a TAM level, and I guess we technically have that with Kai Rawls, although not really. But like a serious, like I'm talking like 1 to 2 million, like TAM level center back, not a player from the Scottish League, a player from either Belgium, one of the leagues that you see a lot of these other ones that look really sort of ambitious, trying to bring in a little more stability out there in the back.
I will note that the last 3 games have our lowest combined expected goals against of the entire season. The only other time where we had 2 consecutive games with less than 1 XGA was the 3rd and 4th game of the season, which was a win against Sporting and a draw against Montreal. Montreal being the commonality here being they suck. So that's sort of part of it. But if you look at the rest of the season, there was another period in which there was never been another period of the season where they had 3 games in a row under 1 XGA. So I think it's good to see what a good coach can do with working with the same ingredients, at least from a defensive perspective, and maybe either be it formation or philosophy or whatever it is. Continue to watch this space. We've also, we're not going crazy on our expected goals. So this is a potential like partial Benny ball return where you're like, all right, we're going to be hard to play against, and we're going to draw, and we're going to sneak some wins away, which is the patented formula. We'll see what the rest of the season holds. I mean, these games don't matter from a standings perspective. Obviously, we've been eliminated, but it does, give you some window into the ability of this coach to at least form a defense that can compete in MLS.
Yeah, I think that's what I think there's a lot to be positive, I guess, in that the decision they made for the coach again appears to be a good one. That's always the big question you always have when you bring a coach over from Europe is how do they manage when they can't get everything they want? They have to, how are they able to kind of use the resources that are in front of them to sort of put together competitive teams? Because it is not like in Europe where you can say, I don't like that player. Let's go give me someone else. We need to, the freedom is very limited. You're limited in contracts. You have to find trade partners. It's very difficult to kind of sell, in a lot of ways to try to dump these players abroad. And if you're a bad team, you can't only buy out but so many contracts. You have a budget cap that you're charged against. And you can only buy out 2 players, and you have to have an ownership willing to do that. So I think the positives that you can take right now, and these are very small positives, like, I don't think anything's changed as far as our thoughts on where this team stands right now. The only hope I have is that I hope after this year there's been maybe a lesson learned from the ownership to just stay out of the room. Don't Jordan Sanchez. Was it Sancho?
Was he rumored?
He was rumored to. Jadon Sancho was rumored to be looking at MLS. Apparently, according to some reporting, that he's looking to maybe make a move over to MLS. I think right now he has now moved over to Aston Villa, I believe it looks like now. So, but I just really hope just stay out of the decision area. Let the soccer people do the build. Let the soccer people do what you want. And please don't tell me we're going to concede $1 million in roster building GAM to go chase after some sort of pipe dream type player. If you have a designated player spot and there's a player and that's the build you're wanting to do, and you've got some options, and a Wayne Rooney type player is available, sure, maybe you still take a look at that, but
or a Thomas Mueller, perhaps a player.
Yeah, but there has
would you
to
have taken
be
him?
Taking him in DC. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think he would want to come here.
No, but it would have been fun.
It would have been fun, but I think it's the recognition of when you go sign those types of players, you need to make sure that your roster is in a state that you're ready for that type of sort of next level up, and that's what we saw in 2018. The roster had some good pieces to it. It had some moments. They were playing a lot of matches on the road, and you saw kind of Wayne Rooney kind of being that last piece that just kind of locked into place. And that's why you saw them go on that run, to end the season. And that's what you kind of need as a team in order to be that. You can't be where DC was and thinking that bringing in Paul Pogba is going to make that type of difference. This team was still very much not a finished product, or not a near finished product where you can bring in that type of player. You look at a team like Vancouver, they played excellent, and Thomas Mueller is brought in to kind of be that sort of next level up to where they can go after and compete in the Eastern Conference and go after and try to win a trophy.
One other little factoid before we move on. In the 6 wins that DC United has this year, 1/3 of them have had Alexis de Silva as the referee. So the last two, this NYCFC game and the one previously in the year was against FC Cincinnati. Not claiming anything, just if you see him next time, be happy.
Let's just hope nobody goes and finds his wife's Instagram.
Right. Biggest DC United fan in the world. Listener to the podcast.
In his happy place, even though I don't know how anybody could be happy in their happy place watching DC United at this point. Shout out to the 5 or 6 DC United fans that
Angus was there.
Angus was there. One of my friends from Richmond was there. I saw him checking it out. It's there was 5 of us there. I'm yeah, that's the vibes right now.
That's about right. Good for that.
All right. I guess I don't think there's anything else really to talk about with this team. We do have some, spirit. 1-1 draw against the Red Stars, maybe slightly disappointing considering the Red Stars aren't that great.
I think the Spirit should have scored 15 goals in the first half alone. So, yeah, I would say pretty disappointing. Paige Mateer misses from 6 all over the place. Pretty disappointing. The goal conceded, Hallersfeld's a very rare, aggressively bad back pass, sort of at a 45-degree angles right towards their center back. Bad pass. Yeah, really kind of frustrating there for the obvious. I mean, it's not going to affect them too much in the standings, but this was a game. I think the Stars had won 1 game this season, maybe 2. Up to that point. So kind of a game you really would hope that they could get full 3. Yeah. And also go ahead.
And I'll be there on Sunday to watch them take on Seattle Reign. So I'm going to stay a little
later. I'll be there
on
Wednesday to watch them take on Vancouver
Whitecaps Girls Elite.
Yes.
Is what it is.
Yes. I just paid $65 for parking, so my child doesn't have to walk from the metro, and the tickets were $8. So that's about right.
Yeah, I guess anything else we want to drop before I think we make this a short show and close it out?
It'll be a short show. I don't think we're going to have a recap show of the friendly against America. Probably not.
No, probably
not.
Time to take a break and go see
Might
our
do
families
that.
and
not self-love, but whatever you call it. So self-care. That's the word I'm looking for. This episode will not be called self-love, self-care.
All right, folks, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will catch you guys in a couple weeks. Vamos.